Tallman to Donna Lucia.
Howdy, everybody. Bob Tallman for No Spin Rodeo. No politics, no BS, just hard-hitting news and rodeo commentary from two of the most trusted sources in our sport. Kendra Santos, Tommy Joe Lucia. Listen up. Here we go.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 7070 of No Spin Rodeo. I am at like 8,500 feet altitude. So if you think I'm a little woozy normally, it could be a little less. I am at the absolutely gorgeous Triangle Sea Ranch in northern Wyoming. And I have with me, of course, the co-host and the most intelligent part of this show, the First Lady of Pro Rodeo Journalism, Kendra Santos, our producer, Greg Teagarden, and the guy that I can't seem to get under his skin. I've been up here 2 days and I've been working real hard to get under his skin. We argued in the hay barn today, but I am so excited to have on this show the legendary and without exception, the greatest horseman that I've ever known, Mr. Chris Cox. So we're starting the top of the show with Chris Cox, Kendra Santos, Tommy Joe Lucia, Greg Teagarden. Welcome to episode 70. Welcome to our show, Mr. Cox.
Well, it's an honor to be on here. Thank you very much.
So I know Kendra because Kendra just bursts at the seams when folks like this get on. So I'm going to let Kendra start. I'm going to take notes so I can give you a good ribbon when she gets done with some questions and stuff. You guys have got unbelievable amount of friends and family that know each other. And as we all know in this business, we are a really large interwoven family. And it's not just rodeo, it's Western lifestyle as a whole. And I think we'll touch on that. But Kendra, here's your shot at Chris Cox. Let her rip.
My shot at Chris Cox. Well, the crossovers are amazing. And I haven't seen Chris since Perry DiLoretto's roping in Reno years ago, where you were roping. But to back up a tick, this darling little girl named Barbara Martinez grew up down this little 2-lane road I live on in our little one-horse town. And I think she still answers to Mrs. Cox, right? Or does she, Barbara?
That's correct. Yes, I'm very honored to be your husband.
Really small world because our little town isn't on a lot of maps. But also at Rodeo Tie, if I'm remembering correctly, Barbara's grandpa, was he not C.W. Adams, the NFR bull rider? Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, that is correct. I think he lives in Missouri. He lives in Missouri now, and he ran a big expo center there for many, many years. I think he just retired. So yeah.
Wow.
C.W. Adams.
Your grandpa-in-law. That's
right.
Okay, super cool. And then also, I have to say it up top for people who don't know, but a huge part of both of our lives was Jack Roddy. And I just, like, I've never known life without Jack Roddy. And so I remember, him from matches, when I was a little kid, and that included my dad also and John W. Jones. And those guys, had a big time as they got older, going on trips and all these different things. But you and Jack, I mean, he was very, very dear to you. And you all went to like Ireland together and stuff.
We did. Well, first of all, Jack Roddy and my father went to school together in Cal Poly.
There you go.
And so it goes way back. And my father's roommate was Jack Sparrick. And so my dad didn't finish college there because his grandmother was really sick and he had to go home. And then he got married, and then he moved to Australia and took his family. So I was born in the United States, and back in '68, I believe. He moved his family to Australia and bought a ranch over there, and yeah, just and so Jack and I became real close later in life, and we went over to Ireland and saw where his father and his mother lived was born in a big hut there, and then we traveled all over, and it was just a great experience. And then I took he and Donna and Chris Libbert and several others to Australia to my dad's 80th birthday party, and he presented my dad with the Cal Poly all around buckle. And guess who has that now? Because my father died last year. I think last year, Kendra, was a year of legends passing. I just can't believe
Yes,
in
sir.
1 month, Jack Roddy, Mike Severy, Potter, just a couple weeks within each other. My father died, I believe, was in March of last year. So, yeah, it was a terrible year for losing legends. So,
And just absolutely legendary people, cowboys. I mean, these guys, you don't replace them. And like the Cal Poly connections never stop also, but like today would have been Cotton Rosser's 97th birthday. And he was a huge Jack and Cotton and I were like the first inductees at Cal Poly Rodeo last year, and was like, wait, what? Like I didn't belong in that crowd. Those guys,
yeah.
you don't make more of those people. And Jack Sparrock, my whole life and our
Mhm.
kids, rodeo together and all that. It's just, in the last few days, the Jones family out here in Morro Bay, the steer wrestling dynasty family of the John W. Jones and Jr. and Senior, lost their matriarch, Joanne, who I know Donna's dear to you, Donna's dear to me, and Joanne
Oh,
Jones.
really?
Yes, sir.
Well, I knew
And
Joanne very well. Yeah.
yes, and so it's just it's it's hard to say, the magnitude. People say, well, they were such a generation. We can't replace them and what they experienced and what they knew. But people like Jack and Cotton were so gracious to share so much of their life and their experience with all of us. So that was amazing. Anyway, okay, well, I don't even know where to start with you with questions because we could be here all night. But um, one thing I assume you still like to team rope. I had a conversation with Clay Cooper this morning, Hall of Fame team roper and wonderful friend like my brother. And he's always saying there's team roping is just like golf. It's like the thrill of the challenge, but also the ultimate sporting frustration. Do you still rope, and do you experience the thrill and the agony also?
Well, for sure. I've took a hiatus, for a few years. I've had some back surgeries, about 4 back surgeries in the last few years, and now my 15-year-old son is healing and really into it. So I had to get my head horse up and bring him up this year, and we're roping in the local weekly rodeo here, and it's been a lot of fun. And I'm starting to feel the competitiveness of it, and I love the opportunity to be able to get my horse to feel comfortable in a situation to where it's a pressure and relax under pressure. And I'm very fortunate. I'm actually leading the series and leading the saddle roping. So, but I love the aspect of teaching myself and my horse how to win. And I think that's to me, roping wouldn't be roping without a horse, and it's a partnership. And just like ropers, horses need to build confidence as well. So I see that, and my horse knows I trust him, and he trusts me, and that partnership together, whether you catch or you miss, there's frustrations all the time, and there's different steers, and there's a draw, and the weather, and everything else. So, but when I leave that arena and I'm proud of the way my horse did, that's pretty special.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like it goes back to my Cal Poly days. The first time I really remembered it, and I remember I was never a barrel racer. I always roped, but um, some of my friends out there just jobbing and beating and whipping, and I would love to know your feeling at this stage of your iconic horseman. You really, if they, can a horse be great without loving it? I mean, you really can't beat it out of them, can you? To be at the highest level, something you can depend on all the time. I mean, if they hate it, sooner or later it shows up, right? Or do you feel that way?
When you have a horse, and there's going to be some point in time that they're going to have to do their job, and you do your job, and they don't take responsibility because of fear and lack of confidence and frustration, they're going to tell on you. These horses tell on you, and when anger begins, I think that's the end of your knowledge. And people get so frustrated because they don't have the answers. Team ropers in general will go and spend $2,000 to $3,000 a weekend and still have problems with their horse, but will not go to a clinic or go and spend $1,000 or whatever it takes to learn something that'll last a lifetime. And I think it's pride. Um, I think ego and pride get in the way, and I think humility. If you don't have humility, a horse is going to bring it out without a doubt. And so they've taught me so much, and for sure, when you see somebody, I think you can be firm, but you got to be fair. And if you're not fair, it's not going to work.
That
It's
goes
a
for
partner
people. Goes for people too, right? I mean, I feel
for
like,
sure.
you know,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
I I I talk to rodeo cowboys all the time, and horsepower and horsemanship come up nonstop. And
Yep.
every single one of them, says it's vitally important, and they're always, spouting off percentages, and they're always very high because they seem to, really recognize it. In your opinion, can you be a world class cowboy without horsemanship skills? Can you get by in 2025 just using your rope and using a horse as
Well,
a tool for transportation?
or spending a $500,000 on a horse and sending them every 2 weeks back to get adjusted.
Well, my answer is going to be it is so competitive today. Every one of these young men and women can handle a rope. Kids grow up, they come out of the hospital with a rope in their hand, and they swing a rope, they can do tricks, they're unbelievable, but they don't use their horse. They don't know how to utilize their horse's body. They don't know how to move their body parts. They don't know how to place their hind feet in the box to have equal weight on both feet. When they leave there, they come out flat and straight. These horses are turning their heads constantly to do everything they can not to look at the steer or the calf, because there's no release when they do. They don't enjoy their jobs. When you get a horse to enjoy its job, when you get a horse that knows how to win, when you get a horse that enjoys what it's doing, man, it's an unbelievable feeling when there's a partnership there together. And it's going to show up. It's going to show up at the NFR. It's going to show up before. It's going to show up. And I'm friends with Caleb Driggers, and he's so great with a rope, but his horsemanship has come so far. Now he's winning jackpots because he's riding his horse. He's winning the BFI. He's winning. He never did before, and
Right.
he's learning to ride his horse.
And
And I'll never forget, he sent his dad for his 40th birthday to my ranch and gave him a lesson, and he knew there's a lot of them. All those guys, the top guys, know how important horsemanship is now. And even if you have a good horse, Kendra, you've got to maintain them.
right,
You got
right.
to maintain
And
them. They're not
the
going to
same
stay.
that same evolution and that you talked about of progress, like with Caleb. I mean, I don't know how old you are, but living that with Speed Williams, coming from Florida, and it was just a chuck and duck situation. And when he had to work so hard to get to where he could win the BFI and he could win Salinas, but but it was all about the horses. And he discovered that he couldn't overcome everything with his rope. And the tougher it gets, it seems like the more that's evident. And all of these fraternities and stuff now in the rope horse world, it's really interesting, but the bar is being raised, right? In terms of rodeo horses, it appears that people
It
recognize how
is.
important, right?
It is. And, just this week, the most recognized, probably top sire in the cutting horse industry was bought by a rope horse owner, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yes, sir.
Its colt, one of its colts sold for 1.7 million here a month or so ago. That's unheard of. It is scary to see how fast the rope horse maturity young horse business is growing. And I've never gotten a horse ready. I'm always on the road, but I'm thinking about, getting a few horses and getting them going and send them somebody or rope on them myself. But it's taken over. It really is. It's the largest team roping is the largest equine growing sport in the world.
Yeah,
And it's because of the handicap systems, really, because that's what it is. And that's amazing to me that somebody stepped up. The price is not disclosed, but I got a pretty good idea what price it is, and the owner sold Metallic Cat for a similar price, the dad of Stevie Ray Vaughan. So he's Alvin Feltz is a great businessman, a smart horseman, and he's it's amazing to be able to see that happening. And Stevie Ray Vaughan is not a very big horse. He is a small little horse out of a dual ray mare, but they crossing him over some running bred horses, some bigger bone horses, and it's working. It's working. And they're
yes.
taking the roping, they're taking they read a steer, they read the situation, they learn to relax under pressure. That's the whole thing. These horses can be good at home, but are they going to be good when there's 15,000 people in the stand screaming?
Yeah, it's been an interesting in my lifetime evolution because it feels like, the old man when I was a kid, they did things the old way, the old school way, the Junior Museos and Jim
Mhm.
Wheatley's and those guys, and they would have jerseys and Holsteins and, track them around the arena, do a lot of slow work and stuff like that. Well, then before the fraternities and stuff came along, I feel like there was kind of a void where friends of mine like Jake Barnes was out beating the bushes, following every lead. This old man in, Timbuktu, Arkansas has a pretty nice horse, and 95% of the time it was a dead end. It was just somebody with an inflated price and ego or whatever. But you were trying to find that needle in a haystack. And now this industry is obviously people are recognizing the horsepower and horsemanship element as huge, because now people, the Ren Richards and different people are spending their time like all day, every day, making these horses. And anyway, it's okay. I will not. I told myself, do not ask him to name any names. But is there one most important piece of advice or wisdom that you would give to ropers in general, because it holds such a key to success when it comes to horses and horsemanship? That would be like
Yeah,
across
I
the
would
board.
say, leave your rope in the barn, learn how to get somebody to help you how to maneuver your horse's body and how to maneuver their rib cage, their hindquarters, their front end, how to be able to lift their back up to shorten their stride, how to be able to get them to stop softly and not fight your hands, and how to be able to teach them how to relax, making the box to where it's a peaceful situation and growing their confidence. All of this, it all ties in. See, when I start a colt, I make sure that they're familiar with the previous step before I go on to the next step. So there's a relationship that builds, and they have a previous step. They said, okay, this reminds me of the first step, but it's a little bit different, but I understand it. So I go on to the next step. I go on to the next step. And so I would encourage ropers out there to be able to learn how to be able to use their feet learn how to be able to utilize their horse's body instead of all about their hands, and teach a horse how to relax under speed, because a lot of these horses get to going fast all the time and they panic, and they don't stay soft. So they just crank the tie downs on and put a bigger bit in their mouth where they're troubled in their body, and you got to learn how to be able to go through their body and soften them up to where their mouth and their feet are soft to the ground. And not only that, it keeps these horses more sound mentally and physically. So yeah, I wish there was one piece of advice, but it all ties together, and just getting better with learning how to be able to teach a horse how to relax through its maneuvers and its exercises, and to where they enjoy their job.
Fundamentals at the foundation, kind of
Yep. Yep.
pretty helpful. Is there
Exactly.
one cardinal sin that you see too many rodeo cowboys committing across the board? Like, oh my God, if I see this one more time, I'm gonna throw my hat on the ground. That is there one thing that is so common that you're just like, ah,
And beating their horse with a rope. Yeah.
okay, well,
You
um,
know, um, it's just one of those things is you've got to learn to like your horse. Your horse knows if you like them, they know if you don't like them. And each individual has a different personality. You have to adjust to those personalities. Some of the greatest horses in the world have quirks. You got to learn how to be able to work those quirks. And they have quirks for a reason, which makes them great. And you can manage those horses, just like I got to manage Tommy Joe here all week. Um,
Well, I was going to say, taking a step back, we're talking about, because you can buy a horse video from someone, a horse clinic video, and they all repeat the same thing. It's about soft and it's, but I don't know how many people. So I'm asking, because I'm not going to pretend like I'm some kind of great horseman. I did Roman ride Shetland mules. Okay, if you think Roman riding's hard, you try to Roman ride a bunch of cheating Shetland mules. And we trained a bunch of Dad and I did together. But let me give me an example. I'm gonna take it out of rodeo. If you start a business, let's say this ranch, Chris, or whatever, and you get someone in, and they come in, and they're a tool. They're a tool for your business, just like a horse is a tool for the competitive nature. But if you treat them as simply a tool, right, as a measure to your success, you can find the best people. And you see corporations do this all the time. They got the very best engineers, but they don't succeed. And where I've been blessed in my business, and I am noticing this with you here, Chris, is you have a relationship with your people. And it's they're all of your people here are family with expectations. And I believe that it's the same thing with animals. When I train animals, right? It starts with the relationship between me and a goat, me and a dog, me and a horse. It's that relationship first, because I'll tell you, we would walk in, I would have three trick dogs, and we would walk into an arena that was 105 degrees, and those dogs would work, and they wouldn't have their ears down. They wouldn't just be going through the motions. They would work because they realized I was just as hot as they were, and we were in it together. And so I'm trying to correlate that when you say, well, they got to be calm under pressure, but isn't it's got to be it's got they got to know that it starts with that relationship. Is that fair? Even with these cowboys and their horses, they're not just
it
tools.
does. It does. I tell you, as I think back to Kendra's question, as I get on here, the most important thing that I've had to tell myself is I am not the best. I am not a professional. I am not a master. I am a student. When I am a student, I'm still learning. And if you come to me and you learn something, and then you come back in a couple of years and I'm teaching the same thing and it's no different, you need to go to somebody else, because I am constantly learning. Horsemanship is a growth. And if you can set your ego aside, your pride aside, and go ride with somebody that's better than you, it's going to help you tremendously. But you can't let your superiority get in the way. You've got to be humble enough to know that you're good at what you do, but you need to add your horsemanship, or you need to add something to it. And for me, what has helped my horsemanship growth is to never think that I got it figured out. To stay humble, because horses will humble you very quickly. They will
You
humble you.
you share that your sentiment and your outlook like that. The greatest rodeo cowboys ever, and for the last 40 years, I've talked to them all day, every day. They share that with you. The
Hmm.
greatest, the
Yeah,
true, absolute greatest, most iconic, legendary rodeo cowboys ever never thought that they arrived. They never quit reaching for more, and that, like, humility, work ethic, all of it. But they always thought, till the day, you know, Ty Murray or Trevor Brazil, they never thought they had gotten there. Jake and Clay, Speed and Rich, they were always trying for more, and still in the things,
mhm,
because they're innately competitive, as I'm sure you are too. It's an interesting combination, that humility with that burning competitive fire that is also part of you.
yeah,
But does that humility sort of fuel you to keep working and gutting it out?
yeah. And I think that stops our frustrations taking it out on our horses. I think that helps us as well. Don't take our frustration out on our horses. It's so easy to do. And your humility keeps you more centered. It keeps you aware. And, I tell my horses I'm sorry, maybe not verbally. And I'm saying, I went a little bit further yesterday than I should have. Let me back up a little bit today. Have that humility to do that. And I think that you will continually grow, and you'll be aware and sensitive of what those horses are telling you. Your horse is telling you something all the time. It's up to you to listen on what they need, not what you need, what they need.
I would love to know your general, do you have a general opinion, or is it case by case, horse by horse, nature and nurture? I mean, is it more important to have this fancy pedigree to start with, or is it more important to have a few traits that you're like, this makes for a winner? I don't care what his papers say.
That's a good question. Um, I've got to have a horse that is capable of doing its job physically, right? And then if it has its mind to go along with it, that's even better. But I'd rather have a horse with a good mind and less ability. I mean, we've seen those horses win. And so it's all individual cases, but it's proven today, just like the bucking bulls, that very few people go to the sale barn anymore and buy bucking bulls to buck them, right? What do? They go genetics, and these maturity rope horses, and I got to make a shout out to Dean Tufton, because he's the one that kind of started these futurities. And he brought it to Fort Worth to the Snafflebit futurity, and it kind of started from there. And the genetics do play a part of it. And if you go and watch these barrel racers, very, very seldom you'll see it, but very seldom you're going to see a story like Scamper that come out of a sale barn, they come out of this, and that's very, very rare. Today, these horses are solely highly bred out of a mare that's won all this, and by a stud that's this, and when you're going to go put your money and all your time into a horse, the paperwork is a good way to start. It doesn't mean it's always going to be successful, and there's always going to be horses that aren't papered very well or don't even have papers. They're going to be great. I give them all an opportunity. A good friend of mine, the greatest racehorse trainer of all time, just died, D. Wayne Lucas. And he told me, he said, treat them all like champions until they prove to you otherwise.
Fair enough. Um, do you watch much rodeo on TV? Do you have time? I don't know, or the time or the interest. Do you watch rodeo ever on TV?
Yeah, I do. I do, and I'm friends with a lot of these guys. I just called Cleo the other day. I'm real close with Rich. Speed and I are with the same age. We're 2 days apart. His dad rode with my dad in Florida. I do have a connection. The younger guys, not as much, but I am friends with, you know, a lot of these guys, and I connect to them. Billy Etbauer uh, and I are very close. He's come to my clinics, and we've become close friends. And those people that are champions, they still want to be champions in another arena. You mentioned it earlier. They still want to keep getting better. And what's crazy about it, a lot of these people that quit rodeo, 90% of them gravitate towards horses and horsemanship.
Right. Yeah. Well, like when you watch a rodeo, I mean, is it the horses, like including the bucking horses? I mean, are you watching horses' expressions, and are you watching barrel horses? Are you watching all of it, or are you most interested in one?
No,
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny you say that. No, I do. I do. I watch the barrel racing. I've been very fortunate to help some of the NFR girls and just here, but I don't ever publicize it. I don't, I think it's very important to not blow your own horn. But at the same time, I've helped some folks, and I love to see them go on and do good. And yeah, some of these horses today that they're running are just unbelievable fast. What we did, Kendra, we started these race horses running barrels, and now we figured out some of the bloodlines that can turn and run. Now that's dangerous. Those goodbye lanes, all them, them suckers, they can turn and run. Before they could just run and had a hard time turning, you know. And so it's all changing. It's all changing, and it's great to see some of this. And I think that there needs to be some kind of a rule, though, in the box. You've got a certain amount of time, and it doesn't work out. Hey, go home and go work on it. Just like the clock in the bull riding. You
Have
know,
you been talking to Oatberry? He's like,
no,
let's put a
no,
shot clock in the box. Is he says the same thing. But
but
yeah,
deal. Go do your work at home. Those people in the stands, they don't want to see you beating on a horse in the box. They don't want to see, do something different, because you're giving the sport a bad name.
right. And
And
note to self on people who don't realize that the instant replay can be a blessing and a curse, because if you just missed a calf and you're sticking a spur up in his shoulder or whatever, whatever, or dragging a
mhm.
rope across his butt, we're watching in slow motion and it's kind of painful. Anyway, I think Chris is supposed to be headed to rope or something, and we promised
Well,
him
he is supposed to go out, but I want to take a quick moment because there's two sides to Chris Cox. And Chris, I do want to ask you a little bit about lead changes, because I think that is a phenomenal thing that you've started. And I want to what st- tell us what it is. I know what it is, but it's easier if you tell us what it is and where it kind of started, and a little bit about lead changes before you go off and try to win your saddle here at the Du Bois Rodeo or wherever you're headed.
Well, I've always had a desire to help kids, and I taught adults for 35 years in clinics, and I feel like that kind of prepped me for helping children. I didn't have my first child till I was 41 years old, so um, a lot of these kids they're come from divorced families, or they're been foster kids or whatever. But that horse, there's something about that horse in these mountains that bring things out in them. And I can't tell you how many times I've sat there beside the campfire when we up in the mountains pack tripping, and told me their story, and they're hurt, and that horse listens, and they tell me they've been to a lot of therapists and psychiatrists, and it's the first time that nobody made them say something, but they wanted to say it. They wanted to tell me, and it's a special moment. We build a relationship out of respect, and I tell them, I said, I'm here because I care. I'm doing this because I care. I care for you, and that horse, and you will build a relationship in these 2 weeks. And to see them walk away and hug that horse and cry, and the bond that they've created that they don't have at home, it's amazing. I've seen these children go off. It's been 10 years, seen them go off to college, and they keep in touch with me. And I could tell you some crazy stories, but I've been very, very blessed that I've been able to do that. We have a great, great board of directors: Pam Minnick, Jim Hurd, um, Eleanor Green. Dr. Eleanor Green's on our board, and several other wonderful people. And yeah, a lot of these people, a lot of these young men and women, they're looking for help. We got to help these kids. And I'm very, very fortunate, very blessed. And when I walk away, I learn a lot from them as well.
A quick question, Chris. If someone knows someone young that this might could help, how would they go about seeing if they're this particular child or kid, and it's boys and girls. It's I think 2 weeks of girls and 2 weeks of boys when you kick off the season here at Triangle C. But how would you go about, if you know someone and maybe you're frustrated or whatever, how would you go about seeing if they could participate?
Um, we have a website. It's called leadchanges.org. Just like lead changes on a horse, it's spelled the same, but it's .org. Go on there and pick up the phone and call Lori. She'll answer. Visit with her a little bit, and we'd love to have an opportunity to help any young women or young man we can.
Awesome.
You have a beautiful place here, and thank you for inviting Donna and I up here. And we thank you for joining us today on this show. And I think that I think that pretty much sums it up. I don't see any reason to go on. I think we just put a nail in this one by saying thank you, Mr. Cox, and thank you, Kendra and Greg, and thank all of you for joining us with episode 70 of No Spin Rodeo. Um, and maybe softer hands will work in a relationship too. So there you have it. All right. Until we meet again, Tommy Joe Lucia, Kendra Santos, Greg Teagarden, and the humble but exceptional Chris Cox. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Kendra. Thanks, Greg.